The next reader is a very dear book to me. It's a secret scripture. It's a World Book Night title. You don't need me to tell you what the book's about. There are some books on this list I've read once, some I've read twice. This book I've read 4 times. I was on the panel for the Booker this year, the year this made the short list. So I read it once for the long list, once for the short list, once again, and then once just for me. If you read one book in your life, this wouldn't be a bad one to be the one book. It's a thing of beauty. And a very special writer of some very special books. It does give me huge pleasure and a massive privilege. And somebody, please text my mom. Please welcome Sebastian Barry.
Well, I wonder what the book is about now that he says that. Roseanne is nearly 100. She's in a mental institution in Ireland. But this is a memory she has when she was a little girl with her father in Sligo, where he was the grave digger. And indeed, the memory takes place in the graveyard, because in the graveyard there's one of those old round towers. And you'll see why they're there. Those were the days just after the First War. And maybe in those ditches of history, as it were, minds turned to strangenesses, quirks of education such as he was bent on that day with me. Otherwise, I cannot explain why a grown man would take his child to the top of an old tower with a bag of hammers and feathers. All of Sligo, river, churches, houses, radiated out from the foot of the tower, or so it seemed from the little window at the top. A passing bird might have seen 2 excited faces trying to peer out at the same time, myself heaping my weight onto my toes and bumping the underside of his chin. Roseanne, dearest, I shaved already this morning, and you won't shave me anyhow at the top of your golden head. For 'twas true I had soft hair like gold. Papa, I said, for the love of all things, drop the hammers and feathers and let's see what's what. Oh, he said, I am weary from the climb. Let's just scope our eyes over Sligo before we attempt our experiment. He had waited and chosen a windless day for his work. He wished to prove to me the ancient premise that all things fall at the same rate in the realm of theory. All things fall at the same rate, he had said, in the realm of theory, and I will prove it to you. I will prove it to myself. So now our 2 faces were jostling for position, framed by the ancient frame of the monk's little look-see window. At length it was clear that his experiment was impossible with both of us there. One or other of us would miss the outcome. So he sent me back down on my own by the dank stairway of stones, and I can still feel that wet wall under my hand, and the strange fright that grew in me to be separated from him, my little breast beating as if there was an uncomfortable pigeon trap there. I came out from the tower and stood away from the base as he had bid me, for fear of the hammers falling and killing me dead. The tower looked enormous from there. It seemed to stretch up to the filthy grey clouds of that day, to heaven. Not a breeze stirred. I peered up faithfully, lovingly. It is no crime to love your father. It is no crime to feel no criticism of him, and especially so when I knew him into my early womanhood, or nearly, when a child tends to grow disappointed in our parents. It is no crime to feel your heart beating up to him, or as much of him as I could see. His arm now stuck out the little window, and the bag held suspended in the Irish air. Now he was calling to me, and I could barely catch his words. But after a few repeats, I think I heard him say, "Are you stood back, dearest? I am stood back, Papa, I called. I nearly screamed. Such a distance the words had to rise, and such a small window to enter to reach his ears. Then I will loose the bag. Watch, watch, he called. Yes, Papa, I am watching. He loosened the top of the bag as best he could with the fingers of one hand and shook the contents free. I had seen him place them there. It was a handful of feathers from the feather bolster on their bed, plucked out against the screeches of his wife, and 2 mason's hammers he kept for when he repaired the little walls and headstones of graves. I stared and stared. Or maybe I heard a curious music. The chattering of the jackdaws and the old scratchy talking of the rooks in the great beech trees there mingled like a music in my head. My neck was straining and I was bursting to see the outcome of that elegant experiment, an outcome my father had said might stand to me in my life as the basis of a proper philosophy. Although there was not a breath of wind, the feathers immediately drifted away, dispersing like a little explosion, even rising greyly against the grey clouds, almost impossible to see. The feathers drifted away. My father was calling in enormous excitement in the tower. What do you see? What do you see? What did I see? What did I know? It is sometimes, I think, the strain of ridiculousness in a person, a ridiculousness born maybe of desperation that pierces you through with love for that person. It is all love, that not knowing, that not seeing. I am standing there eternally, straining to see, a crick in the back of my neck, peering and straining, if for no other reason than for love of him. The feathers are drifting away, drifting, swirling away. My father is calling and calling. My heart is beating back to him. The hammers are falling still. Thank you.